Welcome to the Brute Strength Podcast, bringing you worldwide experts from all areas of health and fitness. We cover training, nutrition, coaching, and mindset. Welcome your host, strength and conditioning coach, 2012 and 2013 CrossFit Games champ, Michael Cazayoux. Mind, body, brute.
Welcome back. This is Michael Cazayoux, and you're listening to the Brute Strength Podcast. This week, I've got Julien Pineau back on the show. Julien is the founder and owner of a company called StrongFit, which helps people understand fundamental patterns of movement along with other things. Julien is one of the most intellectual strength and conditioning coaches that I've ever met, and this was a fascinating episode. I'm going to read a quote that really sums up a lot of Julien's philosophy. And it's by Harrington Emerson, and it goes, "As to methods, there may be a million and then some, but principles are few. The man who grasps principles can successfully select his own methods. The man who tries methods ignoring principles is sure to have trouble." And the reason I read that is because whenever I talk to Julien, and if you look anywhere online at anything that he's created, he's always trying to get at the underlying principles of strength and conditioning or learning or whatever it may be, rather than just the methods, rather than just telling you, I want you to go do 10 by 3 strict press, or that's a completely arbitrary example, or anything like that. He wants to teach you underlying principles that you can then apply yourself. So on this episode, we first start out by talking about how he's learning to stay in flow under pressure. We spend the majority of the episode talking about the StrongFit equation, including Q learning. We talk about AI and reinforcement learning, and this fascinating story about one of the Google AIs that beat the best chess software in the world after having learned chess 4 hours earlier. Fascinating discussion. We talk about outcome-based performance versus learning-based performance, reward versus value, and then intensity. Julien thinks that in the sport of fitness, in fitness in general, intensity is really falling by the wayside in a lot of ways, and I completely agree. And so we discuss why that is and the importance of getting back to intensity in the first place. And then finally, the one thing he's changed his mind on in the past year, and if he could plant one belief or idea into the minds of every listener, what exactly that would be. Again, this was a fascinating discussion, one that I learned a ton in, and I know you are going to love this one. So please help me welcome Julien Pineau. Hey, before we start this show, I want to let you know about something I'm super pumped about right now, which is that I started a second podcast. It's called the WAG Podcast, and I do it with my wife, Adi Cazayoux. And the reason that we started this second show is because over the past few years, I've had the opportunity to interview some of the best and brightest in the health and fitness space, from New York Times bestselling authors to Olympians and CrossFit Games athletes to NFL coaches to sports psychologists, you name it, a lot of the best and the brightest. And I have also interviewed my wife, Adi, 6 or 7 times. And without fail, the episodes that get the most engagement in terms of direct messages or mentions on social media or emails are all the ones that I do with her. And I think it has something to do with the authenticity of the conversations, the fact that we know each other a little bit better and can pull stories out of the other. And so we decided that we were going to start a second show. And the format is each episode is 20 to 30 minutes on a single topic with actionable steps after each. We talk about nutrition, personal development, mindset, and fitness. And so far, the response has been incredible. So if you're interested in the conversations that we've had on this show, I know you will love that one. So go check it out. Let me know what you think. Let's get into this episode. Julien, welcome back, man.
Oh, thank you for having me back. It's been a while. My goodness, what is that, like 2 years?
I think so, man.
Right, something like that,
it
right?
feels like
Yeah,
it was
sure.
just yesterday.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
as I was just
Yeah,
telling you, man, I thoroughly enjoyed our first episode.
it's really nice.
From the outside looking in, some people may just see you as the guy that leaves people, sweating
Yes.
in a pool or laying in a pool of their own sweat and blood. But I've come to understand you a little more deeply through researching now for 2 podcasts, and you are one of the most intellectual human beings in the strength and conditioning world. And I really appreciate the way that you look at life as well as strength and conditioning. So I'm excited to dive back into it with you, man.
So am I. I've seen your work. I love where you're going to. I've seen the last all the podcasts that you're doing and everything. I love that you trying to go outside of the bubble. I think it's awesome.
Excellent, man. So we started to get into a discussion about playing pool,
Yeah.
and I thought
Yeah.
that would be a great place to start because you have an interesting perspective on it. So take us back. Tell me again, why did you start playing pool and really diving into it?
Yeah, it was a very simple reason. Like, I'm a very good athlete, and all my life has been that, which is so to explain to people, I've been at a national level at sports since I'm like 9 years old or something like that. So I was a state champion like in swimming, and then I finished second in wrestling. So my life has been around sport and coaching. It's been always my life. So for me, it's very easy to go to the gym, and if there's challenge or stress or stuff like that, to just not muscle my way through, but to athlete my way through. Like, I'm good with movement, all that stuff. So there's a problem in the gym, I have a bad day, I can just chalk it off and go, okay, I'll just apply myself better tomorrow. It's the challenge is mentally is there, but it's something like all problems have a tendency to answer the same way, which is through like more like a sympathetic reaction, through a fight mode. And this is something that has bled into my life, where for me, the easiest way to answer something is going on the attack, right? Is to have a very strong reaction and go, okay, I'm going to fix it. I'm going to take charge and everything. But the confidence that I have in the gym also bled in my life into like, I'm going to attack everything like it's the weight. And I found that I was starting to get pigeonholed into that way of thinking too much. And it was hurting my capacity, first of all, to relate to other people that are not like that, and also into my work of coaching and researching stuff. So I felt I needed to go outside of the strong fit bubble to learn about myself, first of all, and to challenge myself in a different way. And so knowing that I can answer physically most challenges, I was like, all right, then I'm going to choose one that requires a mental fortitude, but where I cannot use my strength and athletic ability to get out of. And so I was like, all right. So I used to play pool when I was younger, like 20 years ago. So I was like, all right, I'll start playing pool again. And then the bug came back, because back then I loved playing pool. I stopped because honestly, I was getting so passionate about it. I was losing my mind on the table.
No shit.
So, oh yeah. You know what? Pool was probably the stuff that created the most passion inside of me.
Wow.
So when I was 24 to 27, 28, I played nonstop and I literally lost my mind. So I chose training instead, thank God. But so I decided to come back, and the idea was, can I stay in flow under pressure, right? So instead of switching to fight and all that stuff, can I try to remain calm and collected and coordination, right? And all that stuff, while the pressure is being applied in an environment that is not my favorite. And so I started to play just for fun like that. And now I have a coach. His name is Alex Lely. He's a world champion. And I start to compete in tournaments, because the stress that I feel at tournaments is the highest that I can feel, because of all being on the autistic spectrum and stuff like that. And so it puts me into a situation that is very stressful for me. And so my natural inclination is to want to fight my way out. On the pool table, you can't do that. So it's forcing me to basically go more toward the parasympathetic side of things, the flow side of things, and to learn to deal with stress. So to not either quit on stress or fight my way out of it, but to stay within it and learn to increase flow under pressure. And this has allowed me to grow as a person, and also in strong fit tremendously, because I've seen where I put myself into a pigeonhole by not challenging myself anymore in that aspect.
Right.
So that was very, very important, actually. That's thank God I did it. It has brought me a lot, and it's bringing me a lot still.
So specifically, how are you learning to remain in flow state under pressure? What are the actions that you're taking, or what's going on in your mind?
Yeah. So for example, like there's a important part, for example, is nasal breathing, right? If you start to mouth breathe, that means you're losing your shit. So that would be a signal that the stress is getting to you. So first of all, staying in nasal breathing. And the idea is to understand tension. I'll explain exactly how I feel. But first, the key is to understand that you need the tension, right, of tournament or stuff like that to make you learn better. So it's not like you can just practice. It's not enough. You have to put yourself in the stress to learn better. The problem when you go there is obviously at first the stress gets to you. And you discover that the only way to deal with it is by being in the middle of it. But to being in the thick of it, to put yourself into the stressful situation, but at the same time, not quitting. So at first, when I did the first tournament, it messed me up mentally and physically, which means I get there, my hand is shaky, my hands were so sweaty. You know when your hands are clammy? Yes. Like you can feel that, okay, I didn't know what it was. Because with sports, I was never that nervous. When I played pool, like suddenly my hands were clammy. I was like, what the hell is this? Like, oh my God, my fiancée is touching my hand. She's going, oh my God, your hands are clammy. I was like, I know. I don't think fighting MMA, I got that nervous. I kid you not. I was more nervous playing on the pool table than I was fighting MMA.
Amazing.
And so it messed me physically, but also mentally. Like I remember the first tournament, like I felt like crying in the middle of the game, going like, I don't want to be here. I just want to go in the corner, cry because I'm not playing well, obviously. And so I got flustered mentally as much as physically. But the good thing that I did is I went into the tournament telling myself one thing is I'm going to absorb 100% of the stress. I am not going to move away from it. I'm going to sit in it and it's going to be horrible, but I will accept whatever comes my way so I can learn from it. And I was right. So I accepted all of it, which, trust me, was a lot. Didn't play that well, but I made a huge jump in my playing capacity within 2 weeks after the tournament from learning from that experience, right? And so the tournament was very important. But for example, like the most important part of that is something like I had a session this morning, actually, with my coach, and I wasn't playing well. But the key is to understand that sometimes you have your C game. And to get better, what you need to raise is your C game. Most of the time, you'll play in your B game, but you have to understand that to get better at anything, you have to raise your C game. And that was me this morning. For 3 hours, we played. I was in my C game. So you can, in front of my coach on top of it. So not the best day ever. But the key was like, don't quit. Like, it's not your day. It's okay. It's a learning experience. There's no one putting a gun to your head. You're not going to die. It's all right. It's a learning experience. The problem is if you freak out and you quit mentally, then you're not going to learn anything from the session.
Right.
You're going to start deceiving yourself about what happened. Yeah, but you know what? Like I didn't have coffee or I had too much coffee or I didn't sleep well enough or you know what happened was, no, bullshit. Those are excuses. Sometimes it's just not your day. Right? So you have to just accept that, okay, it's C game. But now what do I do to win with my C game? How do I win ugly? Because that's a skill. Winning ugly is a skill. And it's like, all right, so you're going to need more discipline. You're going to need to choose your shots better. You're going to need to think better. And you're going to need to think better under pressure, which is very hard, right? So you're going to have to will yourself into raising your C game to win ugly. That represents so much mental fortitude, especially for someone who has enough athletic ability to make it work usually. Anyway, right? But I couldn't. So I had to develop like a better understanding of myself and a better resilience. Basically, I had to be resilient on the pool table this morning for 3 hours with your coach looking at you and you go, shit, I play like shit this today. Why does it have to be today? Because you're nervous, because it's your coach watching. And then, so we went through the session and the learning experience, although it's not enjoyable, is extremely important because that's how you learn. You learn through your C game. And yes, those are horrible sessions, but you cannot quit. That's the key, right? You stay in it. So not quitting means not quitting mentally. Means, of course, you're gonna stay and play. But are you going to stay and play at the best of your capacity for the day?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like for 3 hours, or are you going to check out mentally? Is that moment when you're going to go, oh, fuck it? No, don't, oh, fuck it. Like for that session, for 3 hours, every single ball, you're going to struggle. Yeah, yes, you will. But that means that every single second, you're learning faster and better.
Yeah, that's
and so
phenomenal
that was
advice.
a session. That was a session for me this morning. And by the way, no, it won't feel good. Like, don't deceive yourself about that one either. It will not feel good. No, it doesn't. But you learn so much better from it.
Yeah, I really love what you said right when you were starting about something about not resisting the emotions, right? The emotions come, and the worst thing we can possibly do is try to resist them and push them away, right? The best thing to do is just watch them happen to us, and they will just move through us. It's when we try to push them away that they actually intensify and they affect our performance.
Yeah, and then they make you shut off.
Yes.
Because eventually you'll just shut off, and then performance is done. And now you truly failed, right? There's a difference between losing and failing, right? Like I lost on the pool table, but because it's one tournament, right? You have to always remember it just there's always the next one. So you fail at one tournament, but you lost one tournament, but you only fail if you don't learn anything from it. So I knew that going in that it was going to be bad. But if you're willing to accept that for one day, going like, all right, and you bring it on. And again, without quitting though, without removing yourself from it. That's the key, is when you resist your emotions, you're trying to basically detach yourself from yourself.
From reality.
That's basically from reality. That's called playing dead. That's a freeze mode. You'll manage to do that. But by doing that, you are making sure that you're getting nothing from the experience. So you have to remember why you went there in the first place. You went there to learn, to win, but to learn, really, to get better. And by removing yourself, right, from reality, you cannot learn anything anymore. And neurologically speaking, it has huge consequences. And on top of it, it creates a very bad habit. That is not winning.
Right.
Right? There's just no way around it. So you're going to have to, and I understand why people want to remove themselves from it. It's your hands are clammy. It's murky waters. It doesn't smell good. It doesn't taste good. The whole day you feel flustered mentally. You feel like you're not worthy. Like I get all those feelings. I had them on the first tournament. So by the way, I go to a second tournament and I get there and mentally I'm at a good place. I'm playing very well at the time. And I'm in a good place mentally, but physically I get there and my hands are shaking again. So mentally this time I'm not flustered, but physically I'm at the same place as last time. My hands are shaky. The tables are very different. I didn't play well. But I still learn. So I know it's going to take me another probably 8 to 10 tournaments before I can get myself under control. And that's okay. I'm 45, man. If I can do it for 10 tournaments at 45, you know what I mean? Like, it's all good. That's the only way to learn. Like, you cannot shut yourself from reality. You have to accept that this is going to suck. And I'm not saying enjoy it because it's not easy to do, but you can find joy. You can find joy in learning.
And you can accept that what is happening is what is happening, and that will allow you to get the most out of that experience. And therefore, next time, you'll be better. Right? Because otherwise, guess what? If you remove yourself from reality, next time it's going to be the same shit. Like, don't lie to yourself. Don't lie to yourself. Don't tell yourself it's because, again, not enough coffee or this or that, my programming or my coach or, no. Like if you do that, you're just setting yourself up for next time to be just as bad. Right. You're conditioning yourself in the way that when things get tough, when you get in this position, you're conditioning your mind to give up. To remove yourself. Yeah. And that's the worst. By the way, removing yourself, we know what it is neurologically. It's the freeze mode. It's playing dead. That is not a good place to be. Well, it's awesome that you're back into it, man. That's some valuable lessons. I'm very happy. So this morning was rough, but it was awesome. Oh, good for you, man. So I want to talk about artificial intelligence as it relates to strong fit, movement, and performance. But first, I came across a post that where you described AlphaZero. You talked about this chess algorithm, and I found that just so fascinating because that's, as far as I know, that's considered artificial general intelligence, which I didn't know even existed.
Yes.
And this is 4 years ago.
Yes.
So can you give us some context and explain what happened with AlphaZero?
Yeah. So it was December 17th to 2016. So 2.5 years ago, what happened is Google, so DeepMind, the artificial intelligence of division of Google, came up with what is called a general artificial intelligence, which is not a chess software, it's a learning software. They come up with a machine basically that has a new way of learning. Before that, it's been worked on for a while now, but basically the old school computers that we had were learning through memorization. Right, so that's what the whole system was working, but it's not good enough because you can't, like there's certain things you just can't memorize. For example, if we take at chess, memorization works well, but if you go at the Chinese game of Go, there are too many possibilities for a computer to memorize. I think there's more possibilities in Go than there are atoms in the universe, if I'm not mistaken. So the computer could not memorize all the moves, so therefore the human brain could always beat, so the best player at Go could always beat the best computers every time, right? And so we knew that wasn't working. So there's a new way of creating those learning machines, I guess you would call it,
right?
Which is called reinforcement learning, which is something that is modeled after, in a way, the human nervous system, which is you're going to make mistakes and learn from your mistakes. So there's an algorithm from that. It's based on Q-learning. I'm not going to bore you with all the details, but Q-learning has a specific algorithm that relates to learning rate, to the need for randomness. So basically, the program introduces random things to have him deal with new situations continuously. So there's learning rate, there's randomness, and then also a very fascinating part about reinforcement learning is that the machine doesn't memorize anything. He forgets everything that he has learned. Just every time it evolves its own code to basically become better at each step instead of memorizing what happened. So I'm going to explain exactly what it means, for example, using chess. So DeepMind started to create that software, which is a self-learning software, right? So that machine that they called Alpha. And Alpha was designed for, at first, games, because that's the easiest way to mimic real life situation. So he went through Go before he went at chess, because Go was looked as the holy grail of games, because again, up to that moment, a computer could not beat a human being because of the memorization problems. All right, so they go through reinforcement learning, and AlphaGo, which is the first one, basically starts to play the game of Go. So he does that through, again, what is called Q-learning. So he introduces new patterns, he introduces like randomness and stuff like that. But to me, what was fascinating is that he has never memorized one game of Go. He never needed to memorize, he only played itself. All the other games were given the best players' games to memorize, were given the patterns, were given mathematical maps or stuff like that. AlphaGo had none of that. AlphaGo had just played against itself, for hours upon hours upon hours, right? And so at the end, right, and again, never memorizing a game, only getting better after each game, just like a human being. And so after that, the AlphaGo played the world champion and beat him 4-1. So that happened like 5 years ago, I think. And that already was something that caught everybody's attention, because they were like, oh shit, now we're getting to Skynet, right? Because suddenly it's like, how did the computer win since he could not memorize? So then he realized that how powerful reinforcement learning was, right? And so from there, they went into AlphaZero, which was even a better version than AlphaGo. So just so you understand, when AlphaZero played AlphaGo, he beat AlphaGo 100-0.
Jesus.
Yeah, right. So everybody was like, oh shit. And so now they send AlphaZero to play chess. So he cannot play a human being, because actually there's a lot of memorization that happens with chess engines. And the best one right now, there's a few, but at the time, the big one was Stockfish. Stockfish was the gorilla in the room. So people understand the best player in the world, maybe ever, his name is Carlsen. is ranked about like 2,900. It's a ranking that they have. Stockfish at the time was ranked 3,400, close to perfection.
Wow.
So he would destroy Carlsen. Carlsen said playing Stockfish was like playing an idiot that crushes you every time. Because the thing is, Stockfish did not have to understand the game.
Yeah.
He had only to not make mistakes. So he had to wait for the human to make a calculation mistake and just beat him.
Wow.
So Stockfish had all the opening tables. He had all the end game tables, all the math, and he had memorized like 100,000 of the best game ever played. So that's how he beat everybody. So brute force calculation, right? And that's how he beat. So now we put Alpha Zero as that. So Alpha Zero is not given any games. No opening tables, no end game tables, no games, nothing. The only thing Alpha Zero is being given is 4 hours and the rules of chess. That's it. He's going to play itself for 4 hours with the rules of chess and nothing else. Then at the end of those 4 hours, Alpha Zero got to play Stockfish, 100 games. He won 28-0 with 72 draws.
Wow.
And so at the time, when I read 28-0, I was like, what do you mean? Like, Stockfish doesn't lose 28 games. So what does that even mean? I didn't understand what I was reading. And then I started to look at the games, and then people can look on chess.com. They have a recap of some of the games because Google didn't realize all the games. They only realized a few, only a few. And so we had the first 10 games. And when they start to analyzing the game, what was the most surprising is not so much that, of course, that Alpha Zero won 28-0, but it's the way he won. He introduced patterns in the game we had never seen before. Like he understood I call it he now. The game.
She.
Because she understood the game. Like Alpha Zero created some certain changes in opening that we have never seen and that people now use because he was so insightful. He was genius. But he looked like a extremely much better human being playing.
Wow.
So what Alpha Zero did is that he sacrificed early to get a long-term positional advantage. That is something computers can't do because they can't see too far enough. This is called the halo effect. So the horizon effect, sorry. We know that the way to beat computers is to make them calculate too much. So if you just keep playing slow and positional, there's too many possibilities and eventually they run out of power, basically. So Alpha Zero didn't play like that at all. He created new patterns of game, like with beautiful insight. I've seen the games. The games are gorgeous to watch. It's like those masters, what they call the romantic school of chess from the 19th century, where people were sacrificing left and right to have like beautiful openings and stuff. It looked like that. So what I thought was wonderful about that on a philosophical level is we taught, as good parents, we taught Stockfish to memorize and do as we said, as we humans understand chess. And like good parents, we fucked up the kid, basically.
Right.
And then when we told the machine to basically program itself, it told us that playing like a human being was the key. So Stockfish has been the influence for chess for like 10 years, 20 years now, since Deep Blue beat Kasparov in 95. And he told people to be mechanical, to memorize, to play like what we thought was a machine. So we fucked up the machine that told us that to win, you had to think very mechanically. But when we let the machine program itself, it told us that actually playing like a human being was the way forward. So the irony of that moment for me was beautiful.
So the way that this AI was developed was based on reinforcement learning. What does this have to do with strong fit, movement, and performance?
So what was very interesting about all this was the Q learning. Like the algorithm basically started with the Q. So the Q is state versus action. And so I started to look at the algorithm, and what I saw in it were really human lessons, right? So first of all, the last part where Alpha Zero doesn't memorize. What he was telling you basically is like, forget the experimentation, remember the lesson. Right, which is exactly what I just said about Paul. You know, if you look, that's exactly what I just said about Paul. Right? It was like it's not about memorizing what happened. It's about drawing the lessons from it. It's about learning from it and then forgetting what happened. So forget the event, draw the lessons from it. That's actually how AlphaZero was programmed to do, which means he never memorized any of the game. So he never looked at the outcome. The outcome was just a number, like it's either a 0 or 1. What he did was he drew the lessons from it. So just out of Q-learning alone, out of that way of learning, was a human application of that. And then one of the big things about Q-learning was state versus action, which is another point that I thought was genius to implement in a human state, especially for movement for us in the fitness industry, is the idea of state versus action. I translated it, for example, for me in Strong Fit as tension versus position. Like you see that in a lot with coaching where we teach athletes to look a certain way, right?
Yep.
Put your elbows here, put your knees there, make sure your back looks like you're doing the correct thing. But looking like you're doing the correct thing, that does not mean that inside you are creating the proper tension to get to where you should get in the first place, right? So it seems to me like when we teach position instead of tension is that we look at the end result, at the outcome, and we try to change the outcome, right? But then there's nothing to learn from that. So instead, I'd much rather go at the source of the problem and try to fix that. And if I can fix that, naturally, it will change the outcome into what I want. So instead of forcing somebody into the position that might not be the good one, I was much more interested into finding the tension that I would need to create, that person would need to create in order to result into the position that I would like to see at the end as an outcome.
Yes.
So state versus action was really that. Was like, what state do you need to be in for the action to match the result we would like to see? So instead of changing the action itself that cannot be done properly since the state is not the correct one, I was like, all right, so that tells me, and I knew that I need to change the state first before I can change the action. And that was really an important moment for me.
Yeah, one of the things I read on your blog, I think it was by one of your other writers, I forget her name, phenomenal writer, by the way. She said the state in which we perform an action is more important than the action we take itself, and our intention and perception will always be the greater determinant of the outcome. Just so potent, man. Are there other concrete examples of how you use this?
Oh yeah, totally. Well, actually, by the way, what you just quoted has been confirmed to me by a guy whose name is Carl Friston. Carl Friston is a leading neuroscientist in the world today, and he's someone who worked on interoception. And so I'm going to give you a concrete example of what that means, state versus action, and why this is changing the world, basically, of neuroscience, but also artificial intelligence, because all the new progress in artificial intelligence is based on the work of Carl Friston, who's first a neuroscientist. So it's a very interesting thing. So it comes down to interoception. So for the longest time, we thought that the brain was almost like a passive thing that was just waiting for stimulus to react to, right? So that you would just sit right there, light would come in, that would force you to react. So that was the idea of how the brain was working, that the neurons were inactive unless provoked by a stimulus, right? Interoception is actually showing us that that's not the case at all. The brain is always working. What happens is the brain is always trying to make prediction to learn from. Constantly making prediction about what is the next action going to feel like.
Right.
So it's not making prediction about outcome. It's about making prediction about how things are going to feel.
Another way of putting that an expectation. That prediction is
exactly.
An expectation, right?
Yeah, but not based on the outcome, based on how it's going to feel.
Right.
So when you walk toward that barbell on the deadlift, your brain is not not just your brain, your entire system is not thinking so much, am I going to be able to lift it or not? It's trying to feel what it's going to feel like when you lift it. Right? And if you can't visualize that, then you can't pick it up off the floor. That's why you end up in a freeze mode where the bar doesn't fucking move, right?
Right.
So all the work of Carl Friston was that interoception was that. It's like the system is first designed to make a prediction, constant prediction, not one, like millions of predictions constantly based on how is the next moment going to feel like. It's why? Because the body is a learning mechanism and we need that to survive better. Right? So that was a stem. And by the way, that's not humans, that's life in general. He has, if everybody wants to Google, he has long conversation about that, where for him, that's how life fights death. It's a learning machine that constantly tries to make prediction and tries to make those predictions come true. That's what life does as a learning mechanism. So very close to AlphaZero in that sense. And so the important part about that was like, so you make a prediction, and whenever it's wrong, and it's always partially wrong, you have three ways of dealing with it. Is you have to either change the prediction, or you have to act on it, which means make the world what fit the prediction, or change how you feel about it. Right? So the key whenever you're wrong about yourself or whatever would be you look in the mirror, right? And you realize you are not the person who you want to be. So then you have to have that moment of truth of, okay, this is where I am right now. I am not where I want to be. This is where I am right now. That's me at the pool tournament, right? Accepting the stress and going, all right, so I'm not as good as I thought I was. So obviously it's not enjoyable. There are many reasons physiologically as to why it's so painful. It's almost a feeling of a loss, right? That you feel when you're that wrong about exactly who you thought you were. And the reason it's a loss is because you're actually losing the prediction that you made before. So you are losing the personality that you had before that you were lying to yourself about, by the way. So you change your prediction. You're like, okay, I'm not the person that I thought I was. So now we can reset. And so now what do? You start making the world fit the new prediction, which is you're starting to work on your skill, in my case, to become a better pool player.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I become the pool player that I thought I was and that I want to be, then I can feel better about myself. And by feeling better about myself comes from the fact that now I am bounding all the learning experience that I had to myself so I can learn some more. Right? And that seems to be the entire system works. Now, why does that matter? Because look at what addiction is. It's basically you going to number 3 right away, which means you look in the mirror and you're like, fuck it, I'm not where I want to be, but I don't want to face that. All right. So then step number 2, I need to make the world fit the prediction, right? But why would I do that when I can just change the way I feel about it?
Mm-hmm.
So what do I mean by that? You're bored at home, right? You're bored. You know, like you're bored because you should be doing something. All right. So you contemplate doing something and you're like, yeah, but that's going to require effort, right? So you know you need to change the world to make things work the way you want. So instead of that, what am I going to do? I'm going to reach for the cashews. Why? Because food will allow me to change the way I feel. And by changing the way I feel, I don't have to take an action anymore. I don't have to change who I am. And so that's very powerful. Because on top of it, because I changed the way I feel, I'm tricking my system into believing that the prediction came true. And so here comes dopamine, here comes all those release. And now before you know it, every time you're bored, you eat cashews.
Conditioning that thinking.
Exactly. And that becomes very dangerous because that's basically the base of addiction. So there are very, very powerful neurological bases in this.
So this is a big part of what you call the strong fit equation. So how does this fit in with what you teach athletes and the clients that you work with?
Well, it was very important because you've seen this in your work so many times, is the intent behind a workout is everything, right? Yes. So going back to the writer, her name is Sarah Lugman. Yes, what she was writing is that it's very important how you feel about it, because it means that the intent of the workout is more important than doing the workout itself in that sense. So what do I mean by that? It's like you have too many athletes that just check boxes, right? They come and they go, do you know what? I did your programming. I did the 5 sets. I did this, and how come I'm not getting any better? Because the intent that they have going into the workout doesn't fit. So that means that if they don't even consider how they're going to feel doing a workout, all they're doing is removing themselves from reality in that Friston model and basically not learning from the experience. If they can't feel how the workout is going to be like, then they're making the wrong kind of prediction or things like this. They're not going to learn from that workout. They're not going to be able to put their max effort into the workout. Mm-hmm. And so when the next workout come about, they're basically in the same place. They're the same person.
Right.
And to get better, you cannot remain the same person. People think that to go from a 400 pound back squat to a 500 pound back squat, all you got to do is to add some muscle and get a better soft tissue, right? Stronger soft tissue. But that's not true. The problem is you are not the person squatting 500. It's not just your legs and your back and stuff like that. You do not have the skill to lift 500 pounds. You are not the person capable of lifting 500 pounds. To become that person, you're going to have to, first of all, agree with that you are not that person and try to change the world to become finally the person capable of squatting 500. But what does that mean, squatting 500? That means that you're going to have to more discipline. You're going to have to have more drive. You're going to have to get your technique better. You're going to have to put the work in. You're going to have to sweat for it. You're going to have to learn intent, because the intent that you're going to put into a 500-pound back squat is a lot bigger than the intent that you put on a 400-pound back squat, because it challenges you way more because of your structure, because of all this. So to squat 500, it's not just adding legs. It's adding all the little stuff about you as a human being that will allow you to squat 500.
Right.
You will have to change who you are to squat 500. So if you go into workouts just checking boxes, never looking in the mirror, never understanding that there's a deeper reality than just checking the box, then you will never get there. And so the intent is everything.
Yeah, it seems to be something like, so on one hand, you could just decide to up your mobility and to get a little bit more sleep and to add a few recovery and recovery modalities and skill work. Or on the other hand, you could change who you are and become the type of person that finds that finds every one of the 1% additions possible, right? You decide to become a professional. And then what does a professional do? A professional naturally will do all of those things that I listed before and some.
Exactly. And some. And it will learn. And by the way, what you have learned about yourself in the process will allow you to go from 500 to 550 and 550 to 6, because now you know what the process is, that it requires. The work that is required is just more than just checking the boxes. Like you can squat 300 or get to probably 350, 400 by just checking boxes. But there's always that moment where you're going to have to invest yourself in it. You're going to have to learn the craft,
right?
The real skill to go past what your natural ability gave you. And that's when you have to change as a person. And as you say, become a professional, become someone who is invested, who's dedicated into getting better. And that requires doing the pool tournament feeling like shit for a day. That's what you learn. Because if you're not in the pool tournament feeling with your hands clammy and everything, you're not going to realize that the problem is you. That you're not as good as you thought you were. That under pressure, no, you can't play like when you're relaxed. That when you're in that big tournament, guess what? It shows you exactly what your C game is. And that's something you lied to yourself about. But now you can't. Why? Because now you're accepting the pain that comes with having a C game in front of everybody and not quitting mentally. And now you're learning. And now you're learning what you need to do to get better. And that's what it takes to get better. It takes you changing as a human being. And so to me, it was an extremely important. I knew that for myself, but I was like, I cannot then just tell people what to do. I need to tell them how to do it. I need to have a conversation on a human level.
Right.
On telling them, look, you want to get better? Fine. Let's talk about it. But let me explain to you what needs to be done from your side. Like, you can't just pay me and think I'm going to send you, and all you got to do is ask me, like, okay, what should I do? Tell me what to do today. It's not going to be enough. You're going to have to be as invested in your progress as I am.
Right.
Otherwise, it just won't work.
And for those of you listening, this is exactly how the concept of vulnerability relates to athletic performance. The example that you're giving of being down and, playing your C game in a pool tournament and continuing to give your best, that is vulnerability, because it's so much easier.
Yes.
It's so much easier just to say, oh, I quit. I'm not going to keep trying. And it takes courage to continue putting your neck out there, even though you're not feeling your best. And we know in every single area of life that everything we want is on the other side of overcoming fear and going through vulnerability.
Yes, that's where the C game is. And by the way, again, I understand exactly how hard it is. I'm not, I'm not denying how awful it feels at all. Like that's the key, right? But so I think it's very important is like all of us as coaches, we have those open conversation, as you say, about vulnerability and telling them like, I feel the same. I got you, man. I'm not better than you in that aspect. I feel like shit too during my SEA game. I don't like it and everything. It's just, we cannot lie about the fact that that is the way forward, that unless you change as a human, you won't get better. So you see too much of people not touching the human element when they want to make better. I've seen that so many times. Some people saying like, if you just do the programming, this and this will happen. And I'm like, that's not true. You'll get marginally better, maybe, but the good ones, they can tell you how much. Look how invested a Kobe Bryant is. Look how, I mean, it comes from you at the end. Like I can help you, right? I can show you how to do it. It's like you can be Morpheus to Neo, right? You can show the path, but at some point, it's the person that has to go like, I need to change who I am and become who I should be. And by the way, that is not an easy road. I'm not denying that aspect at all. But we cannot lie about the fact that don't worry, if you just do this, this will happen. Like, no, that's bullshit.
Right.
It doesn't work like that.
So another big piece of the strong fit equation is related to reward versus value. And I'll read a section, another part of an article that Sarah wrote, and it goes, many of us are too focused on short-term rewards, how we compare to others, how we perform on a test, rather than the process of learning. The expert loves to learn more than it loves to win. And this really reminds me of a conversation that I had with Hiron Gracie, the grandson of Helio Gracie, where he told me that as a beginner in jiu-jitsu, your goal should never be to quote unquote win a sparring match. It should be to learn.
That is true.
So can you talk a little bit about this piece of the equation?
Yeah, actually it's part of the Q learning as well. It was reward versus value was a very, very important part of the Q learning. For example, like the best example of that was Stockfish versus AlphaZero. So what Stockfish has is reward. He has basically on every position, he's going to calculate, right? What are basically the chances of, like he has a plus minus one system on every position. He calculates the position and he looks if the position gives him an advantage. If he gets a +1, that's the equivalent of a pawn. If he gets a +3, that's equivalent of a bishop, he's up a piece. And from there, he starts to calculate. So everything is based on reward. If I do this, I'm going to get a 0.5 on that position. That's good. And then he moves on to the next position. If I do this, I get a +1. That's good. And then he moves on step by step by step by step with a reward-based mentality of if I move left, I get a plus. If I move right, I get a minus. All right. And that worked for a while because that if you memorize enough, it can lead you to some places. And then here comes AlphaZero, who sacrificed early to achieve something in the long term. Why? Because AlphaZero never calculated based on the reward. He only calculated based on the value. Because AlphaZero understood something that Stockfish did not, that it's not about winning the position, it's about winning the game. And it's not the same. Like you can lose a battle and win the war, but you can also win a battle and lose the war, right? That works both ways. AlphaZero only had one intent, which is win the game. That's it. Whereas Stockfish was stuck on winning every position. And that's basically what you see a lot in beginners is they try to win a sparring session. So I had that as a black belt trying to teach white belts where they come at you trying to win. And I was like, dude, you can't win.
No way.
Strong. Yeah, I'm better, stronger, more conditioned than you, better technically with far more experience. You can't win. Even if you win in your dreams, you wake up and apologize.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you're not going to win this. What you could do is to look at what I do to you so that you can try to understand what is it how I'm doing it so that you can duplicate that whenever you see that situation with a sparring with somebody else, right? So of course you're going to get your ass kicked, but in getting your ass kicked, look at what I'm doing to you. But to do that, it requires, just as you say, vulnerability. It requires you understanding that you are right now, you are not a person who can beat me, but you are a person who can learn from me. So put your ego aside and absorb the knowledge I'm going to give you instead of the information, which is, of course, as a white belt, is the hardest thing to do, and that it takes you getting submitted 3,000 times for you to learn. But that's basically the same idea of reward versus value. When you fight every single inch, or you try to check boxes, or you try to get that PR every single day, all you're doing is getting a reward, right? But if you look at nutrition, it'd be the same thing as getting a steak versus ice cream. If you're reward based, then just eat what feels good, man. Just eat Nutella all day. The problem is you're not going to get the value out of it, right? Mostly around your mix section.
Yes, yeah, you'll get a lot of plus ones there.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that was the issue, and that's something Carl Friston actually talked a lot into his work as well. Was the same thing. A reward is based on the outcome, right? But the outcome does not mean whether you learn or not. Like, for example, let's imagine I'm at the tournament, right? And then I refuse to feel like shit, so I'm trying to make the next ball and make the next ball. My stroke is shit. My brain is not working, but I make the next ball, I make the next ball, I make the next ball. And then I happen to beat a player that is weaker than me. Did I win anything? I won the game. Well, what did I win? I didn't win anything. I didn't learn anything from that game. Yeah. But let's imagine I get lucky in the draw and I face two bad players. I go home and I'm like, yeah, I played so well. No, you didn't. You played like shit. But because the guys were weaker than you, now you think you won. And now you're not going to learn anything. And now you're on the wrong path because you think that making one ball and then the next one and the next one without ever working on your stroke or your positioning is the way to move forward. So now you screwed yourself up for months because now it's going to require you getting slapped in the face right. Real hard to learn that was the incorrect way to do it, which exactly what happened to me. I had to be at that tournament, the last one, to realize that I had done all the ones when I was a kid at 24 to 28 the wrong way, where I was just trying to beat the guy in front of me, but never learning pool. So just like Stockfish never learned chess, I was not learning pool. I was just trying to beat the guy in front of me. So, but now basically my coach is breaking me down so I can finally learn pool. And it's about my stroke. It's about position. It's about doing the right shot, not making the next ball, but taking the right shot. So now I understand that missing the ball is okay as long as the intent was correct. The intent is it was a right shot done the right way. I just missed. And that's okay too, by the way. This is something I have to learn, is that you miss a ball, that's okay. Sometimes shit happens. You just missed. That's all. There's no pattern to look into that one. Right. It was a correct shot, done correctly. You just fucking missed. It happens. That's life. Sometimes it's not you being a bad person. Sometimes there's no pattern. You just fucking missed. But you learn that through basically understanding that it's about the stroke. It's about the value of your game, not the immediate reward. And that's an extremely important lesson. And I thought I had learned that lesson up until I started playing pool again. And then I was like, guess what? I haven't learned that lesson fully. Because on the pool table, I had to relearn this, and I'm still struggling. That was a conversation we had with my coach this morning. Like, when I'm nervous, I'm still too afraid to miss, and that's screwing up my stroke. Because I still can't let go fully of that fear to miss. So I'm still not the human being that I need to be to get as good as I want to be.
What a beautiful lesson for just about every area of life. And one area that I really want to highlight is the piece about figuring out what game you're really trying to win. Right? Is it you're trying to win? Like, what's the most important game? Is it the game you are in the middle of playing? Right? Are you willing to sacrifice learning just to win that one pool match, or is it a season? Right? Are you so dedicated to being on top in that season that you're willing to cut corners? Or are you so committed to excellence and reaching your full potential? And guys, please translate this into fitness, business, relationships, whatever it is. Or is it you really want to reach your full potential, so you'll do whatever it takes to learn, and you're willing to forego some losses along the way?
Yeah, and as you said, it's reaching your potential, right? All right, so who said it's going to be fast? Because if I learn one thing in life, is if a skill takes time to learn. And if you want to be really, really good at something, it takes really, really a lot of work, right? So like you see that with athletes that will concentrate really hard for 2 years, 3 years, and then cut corners, not do the stuff that was needed. and now they have a 3-year career. And then they're like, yeah, but I gave it everything I had for 3 years. I'm like, but what if your career was supposed to be 12 or 10 years? What if he would have taken you 6 years to reach your peak? And then you would have basically a career for the next 4 years. That means that those 3 years where you think you gave everything you have amount to very little. What you became is you're a world champion white belt. You see that all the time. Like I see that in jiu-jitsu all the time. Guys that are world champion blue belts and think they're the shit. I'm like, dude, nobody cares. No one remembers a world champion blue belt. It's what you do as a black belt that matters. So if you're going to play the point game in jiu-jitsu as a blue belt in order to win the worlds, that means that you're going to have there's some serious slaps in your face coming up for you to find your own game and to understand jiu-jitsu. Because right now, you don't know jiu-jitsu. All you know is to score points. That's not jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is submitting. Jiu-jitsu is going through the flow. You don't know jiu-jitsu yet. And by having that mentality of beating the guy in front of you and never going past that, so by being reward-based instead of value-based, you will delay the moment where you become a black belt by so long. That's the thing too, is either you will cut your career short because you're burnt out. So now those are the people you see at purple belt that they burn out and quit jiu-jitsu. And you can apply that to business and CrossFitters and all that stuff, right? Because at some point they go like, they never found their game. In jiu-jitsu, you see the most people quitting as blue belt. Why? Because to become a purple belt, you need to find your own game. You need to find that moment where you realize, oh shit, so it's not about just muscling my way around and being a tough guy. It seems like I'm not going to the UFC anytime soon. Sorry. It's going to require some serious work. And on top of it, it's about me. Some serious work is not enough to go and memorize position and memorize sweeps and stuff like that. It's like, no, you're going to have to learn jiu-jitsu to make it work for you. You're going to have to learn what your game is. So you're going to have to learn yourself, about yourself. And that is very hard. That's where most people quit. And it's the same thing in CrossFit, where we see 3 years career where someone could have lasted 10 because they just wanted to win this year, and then they wanted to win the next competition, and then they wanted to win the next workout. And now they have major injuries left and right, and now they quit early. That's what you see. That's the problem of reward versus value, which unfortunately we live in a society that promotes a lot of it. But to become good at something, it's going to require a lot of work, and it's going to require a lot of you, a lot of yourself. Like they tell you you can be everything. That's bullshit. You can be anything, but you can't be everything. For the good reason is, like, to become good at something, one thing, it's so much work. And it's so much of yourself, and it's so much of learning about yourself, and it's so much of going into the dark corners under the bed and finding out where you left all those small percentages that make you better, and you have to go deep to get them, and they're usually in ugly places that don't taste good.
Yep.
And that's where getting better is. And it's not easy.
That's beautiful, man. So moving on from the equation, I've got another golden nugget that I found somewhere that you put out, and it's intensity is the price of being excellent, and only you can pay that debt. I've heard you talk a lot about the fact that in the fitness industry, and you know, I think this parallels into a lot of areas of life. We're sort of losing intensity in lieu of volume. What's happening to intensity in the sport of fitness?
Yeah, you see, in the sport of fitness, you see that a lot, where the sport of fitness was created originally with the idea of, we're going to do one workout a day, but we're going to push the machine to its maximum intensity, right? And if I can relate that to neurological state, it would be like, you know, the difference between fight and flight. It happens in the sympathetic nervous system, and the difference really is hunting versus being hunted. It's wanting to be there versus not wanting to be there, right? And that's.
Can you say that again?
Fight and flight.
Can you say that piece again?
Yeah.
The wanting to be there versus not wanting to be there. What is that?
To be there. Yeah. Well, that's the difference between hunting and being hunted.
Okay.
What's the difference between the hunter and the one who's being hunted? One wants to be there, the other one doesn't.
And then how does that relate to intensity?
Well, okay, so that's the difference between fight and flight.
Oh, okay,
right?
Got it.
So in a sympathetic nervous system, you have fight versus flight. What the idea of intensity is to get yourself to that fight mode where the bear is coming, and you're gonna, the bear is coming, you're with your kid. If you don't fight the bear, the kid dies. It's going to create an intensity in you, and basically it's that fight mode. This is the only way forward. The problem is, by checking boxes, people think that they can do more, but without putting the intent behind it, right? And they can just be in a place where they can just do the work, not put that intensity in the back, and then they would get results anyway. The problem with that is, before you know it, by pacing workout and going over volume, is you end up in a place where you just don't want to be there anymore because you're not putting the intent. And because you don't want to be there anymore, neurologically, that puts you into flight. What's very interesting about that, and then I don't know that we have time to go into the whole sympathetic innervation, but that we've seen through studies and everything, is that, for example, like regardless of calorie intake, regardless of how much you eat, cutting off what is called the melanocortin axis, which is the sympathetic nerves that goes from your brain to your body, you provoke fat gain. If you trigger the vagus nerve on one side and cut off the sympathetic circuitry, which is called the melanocortin axis, you will promote fat gain regardless of calorie intake. So we tested that with rats, right? Where both groups of rats were given the same amount of food, which is high-fat food, right? One basically got an ablation of the melanocortin axis. So they cut off the sympathetic connection from the brain to the body, and fed the two groups of rice the same amount of food, and they realized that the rice that could not go into fight, right, were gaining fat. So they realized that there was a relationship, a literal, like a neurological, physiological relationship between the fight mode and the flight mode and the freeze mode. That basically not going into fight does not allow you to create muscle and burn fat because of a very important part that is called, again, technique stuff, the melanocortin axis. Anyway, long story short, it meant that basically if you don't want to be there when you do the workout, you won't get the results out of it, right? And so wanting to be there doesn't mean like, oh, I'm going to do what I want. No. That means fight. Fight means I'm going to fuck up the bear that's coming at me. It means an intensity. It means a willingness to go into the dark place and still win and still at least fight for it, right? It goes back also to the Carl Friston model, all that stuff. It's amazing how much our body is designed like that. Like, I don't have the time to go into the whole stuff, but if we have ever time for a third podcast, I can go into the whole neurological system that is based on that. But that shows you that the results, even for us, of building muscle and burning fat relates to how much fight you're putting into the workout. If you're into a workout where you don't want to be there, you will not burn fat and produce muscle. It's the results of those studies are incredible in that aspect. What we need intensity. Why? Because you need to want to be there. So intensity doesn't necessarily mean 5 minutes, but it means intent. It means you go at a workout with all intent to put what you have yourself, invest yourself into the action in front of you. That's wanting to be there. That's being in the fight mode. If you don't do that, you just won't be able to get the result out of your training. So people at first, when they got into intensity, like that's the first 2 years of CrossFit for most people, they start to get those great results, right? And then they're not outcome-based. They go like, oh, I want to feel better. I want to feel good. So let me just feel what it's like to invest myself into a workout. Now we're going back into the Carl Friston, where you're making a prediction about how you're going to feel. And then after 2 years, they start to think about competing. And now they become outcome-based. Right? So instead of about it being about how they feel, now it becomes about what they want to accomplish. Mm-hmm. So now they remove themselves from the equation. And they go, okay, so I'm going to remove myself. I'm going to remove how I feel from the equation. What is it that I need to do in order to win a competition? So becoming outcome-based, and they go like, oh, I need to do that much volume. By doing that, they remove themselves from their own reality. And then of course, they lose the passion. Most people, after a while, the anxiety starts to go up. Why is the anxiety starting to go up? Because you put yourself in flight. Because now you're not actively trying to be there in the workout. You're just checking the boxes.
Right.
And now guess what? You don't want to be there anymore. Like people that are in that stage, they know what I'm talking about. They don't want to go to the gym anymore. They don't want to do the workout. But what do they tell you? Oh, I have to. It's on my programming. I have to do this. No, you don't, because you don't want to be there. And if you don't want to be there, guess what? You're not getting the results.
So the biggest
That is such
culprits
an-
to intensity, the biggest obstacles to intensity are and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like one is volume, right? If we're doing so much work, we simply cannot reach our highest levels of fight.
Yes.
And then the other
Exactly.
is a focus on outcome rather than process,
Yes.
or outcome versus
Exactly.
how am I going to feel in this workout, or what is my intention in this workout.
Exactly. You see, like you've done sports outside of CrossFit. Like
Yep.
most sports, there is no rep count. There is no monitor that can tell you how well you're doing. The only person who knows how well you're doing is you. You have to be able to gauge. I'm going too hard. I'm not going hard enough. Am I in my C game or my B game today?
Right.
What do I need to adjust to do better? The only person who can tell you that is you, right? You play rugby. It's 80 minutes. You're at minute 26. You don't know that. There's no clock anywhere. So if you're freaking out, you better calm down because there's 40 minutes left and you don't know that. So imagine what that does to you mentally. So you have to be able to gauge where you are in your own body in a stressful situation at every single second of the game. Because if you go too hard, then you're going to gas out. Again, you don't know when the break is. So learning, that's a skill you need to have is where am I? What am I feeling? Where am I right now mentally? What do I feel? How do I feel? Right? Those are very, very important questions that people, when they become outcome-based, start to completely take off. And in the sport of fitness, it's very easy to do because you have reps and you have a monitor in front of you, the rower, the airdyne. And the problem also is that when you do that, the monitor in front of you, that external validation is telling you how good you are, how good you feel. So now you know that you're rowing well because you're doing 132. But that's not telling you how shitty you feel inside, right? Because you know when you row a 2K, there's going to be peaks and valleys, like everything, like any game. Like when I play pool, there's good moments, bad moments. All right, so you're supposed to follow that. If you're at a peak, you go harder. At a valley, maybe you go a little bit slower. But instead, you're looking at the monitor. The monitor is telling you it's 132 whether you like it or not. So now you have that external thing telling you how you should feel. That's external validation. That's even more outcome-based,
Right.
which means you're even further away from yourself. So how could you want to be there when you have to obey the whims of that freaking monitor in front of you telling you how you feel? That is not the way forward.
So I want to wrap it up in just a couple minutes, but I've got two more questions for you.
Yeah.
The first is that what's one thing that you've changed your mind on in the past 6 to 12 months?
Myself, mostly. I thought I was very good under pressure. Like I'm not someone who chokes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought I was like, there's a number of things that I've discovered by myself, especially like the spectrum and stuff like that. But a very important moment was the realization that I am not capable to remain in flow under pressure. That was a very big moment. I thought I was, again, athletically speaking, whenever I have to perform, I have no problem performing. But I realized that when it came to purely mentally under pressure, I had a very hard time not fucking off in my own head. Like I had a very hard time staying in the present.
Right.
That too many times I found myself fucking off somewhere in my own head, like going like, yeah, it doesn't matter. No, it does. It does. Stay here and just endure it, and not endure it, fight for it, right? And then I found that mentally I was not nearly where I thought I was in that sense, because I saw myself many times going like, yeah. And now I see in my life how it blended into my life, where I have quit certain things out of what I thought was lack of interest. And now I'm starting to wonder was that lack of interest or was that me pussying out?
Ah, interesting.
You know what I mean? Which one was it? Was that lack of interest because I lost interest because it got hard? Was it what this was? Or was I truly not interested? So it's forcing me to look at my own life in a different way. And I've discovered that I've not gone after certain competitions, or in life I'm talking about, not necessarily athletic competitions, not because I wasn't interested, that's for sure, but because I just did not want to put myself into the stressful situation and therefore did not let myself learn from it. So that has forced me to look at in the mirror a lot harder.
Thank you for sharing that, man. It takes a lot of courage to continue down that road of self-discovery. At your age, a lot of people, they think of themselves as a fixed state or a fixed set of skills and beliefs and knowledge, and you're actively and aggressively working on yourself. So bravo to you, man.
I am better. You know what? I might start to talk about this more because people need to realize you're not done at 35 or 40. Yep. I am better now in most aspects that I was at 35. So I think it's an important thing to, I guess, to say. Maybe people think like you have a business, a kid, you're done or stuff like that. But the growing process never stops.
Right.
Like I thought so at 25, I thought I had everything figured out. Obviously, I was 25. So, and now that I'm 45, I'm starting to figure out how little I actually have figured out.
Yep. I'm sure you know the Dunning-Kruger effect, yeah?
Yeah.
For those of you listening who don't know that, it goes something like this, and I'm sure you can explain it better than I, Julian. Basically, in the beginning, when we first start any discipline, we think we know nothing, and then very quickly, once we get involved in something, we think we know everything. And that will last 1 to 3 years. And then the more we learn, the more we understand that we don't know.
Yeah, the more you figure out that there's so much stuff that you don't know. Like jiu-jitsu was a perfect, for me, was a perfect way to see that early in life, where it was, so you start as a white belt, you get your ass kicked. You get to blue belt, and you think you know jiu-jitsu. All you got to do is memorize position and technique. And then you get to purple belt, and then you get that opening of your mind that happens when you realize that, oh shit, like I've memorized position, I have information, I don't have knowledge because I don't know how to adapt all those techniques to myself because I don't know what my game is. Mm-hmm. And then you progress to brown belt, and now you know your own game and you're more efficient at it. And then what you realize at that moment is that actually all you are is a vessel for jiu-jitsu. That's it. And when you make that realization that you're only a vessel, it's very freeing because then you realize that you don't have to know everything because you never will. Because jiu-jitsu is too big for you, and that all you can do is to be a vessel for it and to be your own self within it, which means you won't learn everything, you won't have all the knowledge. What you can do though is get the little part of jiu-jitsu that you have and make it the best possible. That you can do. And it's a freeing moment when you realize that.
Great advice, man. So my last question for you is, if you could put one belief or idea on a tiny computer chip, and then you could plant that idea into the minds of everyone listening to this show right now, what would it be? What would you put on that chip?
Oh, I know exactly. So if you can give me 5 minutes for the answer, because it's a big one. It's worth an entire podcast, basically. But for example, I was studying the reptilian brain the other day, and it's fascinating. Like the reptilian brain, so the early part of the nervous system has two hemispheres actually, and this is where it seems all deceit is contained. And
can you repeat that?
All the forms of
where deceit.
All forms of deceit is a reptilian brain thing, which is very funny because you would think deceit is a human invention, right? And actually, no, it's basically the reptilian part of the brain where it's located. So what I found very interesting is if you go at evolutionary biology, for example, the vagus nerve that we have that allow us to live in society as tribal creatures, mammals, is actually the newest form of the nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is much older. That's where we get from that reptilian state and stuff like that. And what I found very interesting is that the difference between happiness and joy. Happiness lives in the sympathetic nervous system, whereas joy lives in the parasympathetic nervous system. We know that joy is actually something that relates to the vagus nerve. So if you were to look at the reptilian brain versus the higher brain function, that would tell you that joy is a higher brain function and that happiness is a form of deceit. So that would make it interesting. right? Because then you realize that happiness is outcome based, that this is why you can feel happy even by when you buy a new car or when you do something, even though it's not relating to the reality of your life.
Right.
Like happiness is about the past or the future, whereas joy is about the present. Joy allows you to be very clear with your own reality, does not allow you to deceive yourself. And you know that joy can only last so long. So you enjoy it while you have it. When you have joy, you are in the moment. Happiness is a form of deceit that allows you to live in the past or the future, but takes you away from the present, right? Because it allows you to lie to yourself about where your life is and where you are as a human being.
And then part of happiness is as we're feeling it, we're also, whether it be immediately or as some type of experience is starting to wind down, we start to resist it leaving us, right? Which creates some form of suffering.
Some form of suffering, right? And then, so now you're hunting for the next one.
Right.
And so again, by doing that, you are never staying in the present where learning is, right? So I believe that's a old system that we have, and that it's a form of deceit, basically. I think the higher brain function take us toward our capacity to be in the present and toward joy.
So what's the takeaway for people? Like channel your inner snake?
No, the other way. Like, for example, when you go train, if you try to be happy, so what makes you happy? You get that one snatch, right? Like that you've been looking for, either a PR or whatever, and now you feel you're Matt Frazier, right? Now you go like, oh man, I got it. That snatch was so perfect. I got it. I know how to snatch now. You know that's bullshit, right? Like you're going to fail the next 10 now. You know you're not.
Right.
You're not, but you get one snatch and suddenly you're an Olympic weightlifter. No, you're not. You haven't learned that much. You just got one good one, right? Yeah. So, but suddenly you have all those movies in your head that make you go like, ooh, then I'm going to do this and I'm going to go compete and I'm going to go at the games. And right? That's a form of deceit. So instead of trying to look for things that make you happy, look for things that make you joyful. So when you go train, right? What is the training today that would bring joy? It can be heavy, it can be intensity, it can be pushing the sled or whatever. But what is it that is going to drive you toward joy instead of driving you toward happiness? Because happiness is outcome based. Most likely it's something that allows you to lie to yourself. It's a sympathetic fix. It's part of addiction. So instead of that, why don't you try to look for joy? You know that from even relationship or stuff like that, right? There's a difference between, yeah, I'm happy in my relationship, like I got what I want. You know what I mean? I got the stability I wanted, I get this. Or are you joyful with your partner? You know the difference between the two. You hear people saying, yeah, I'm happy. Like in the sense of, I got what I want. If it was enough to be happy and to be joyful, everybody would have it. It's not that. You have a good partner when you can find joy in their presence. It's not the same, right? That's why the quest of happiness is a very dangerous one. We should be looking for joy, not happiness.
Beautiful, man. Julian, this was phenomenal. You are a very special human being, dude. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Where can people find out more about you?
Instagram at StrongFit1. Otherwise, by the way, I'm doing a new website just for me, and it's called Julian's Corner, and then it'll be up within the next 2 weeks. So they'll be able to find me there, or strongfit.com.
Awesome, brother. And for those of you who want to dive much deeper into the mind of Julian Pineau, he has some very extensive YouTube videos. I guess it's like a video version of a podcast where he dives super deep into these topics that we've started to talk about, like Q learning and neuroscience and all of that sort of stuff. So go check it out. Julian, thank you, brother.
Thank you so much for having me.
This episode is finished, but your training journey continues. Head over to brutestrengthtraining.com/SSW and grab your free pack of 32 accessory workouts that you can incorporate into your training and start improving your strength immediately. That's brutestrengthtraining.com/SSW.